Good morning, good afternoon, and welcome to Unlearning Labels. Um, my co-hosts are behind stage and they will be coming shortly, but we just wanted to give you a new way to experience the Unlearning Labels show. So today we will be speaking about your job doesn't have to rob you of joy. So with no further ado, I'm going to bring them on. Good afternoon.
Hey, Cordelia. Good
Hey,
afternoon.
How
How are
are
you
you? I'm doing well. Are you feeling joyous today?
doing? Yes, yes. After a little bit of a stressful morning, I think we are back into the feeling good about what we are doing.
What do you think? Sometimes we have technological problems, but does that have to rob us of our joy, Peter?
well, it
Exactly.
does when we didn't press record before you started. That,
Okay, so that happens.
that happened really.
Yeah. No, but I mean, and the thing is, I think what we kind of started with was that things happen all the time. Um, we can't, but it doesn't mean that we have to stay in that feeling. It doesn't mean that we have to rehearse everything bad. We can, we have a choice to let go and, kind of new thought, new feeling, new idea, new move forward, isn't it?
Yeah, like I guess I'm hearing you say we don't have to make it mean anything.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. So, why are we talking about joy and work today? I mean, it was quite funny because when we were talking about the um, title and what we really wanted to bring forward, um, we were all in agreement that joy and work usually are not two words that come together. And we were thinking, will people actually be interested in listening about this? But we said, let's do it anyway, because I think it's an important topic and it's coming up more and more.
Yeah.
The topic actually came up in our last live podcast, actually, and yeah, I mean, it's something that I hadn't thought about for a while. But when we think back, actually, one of our clients, I don't know if you remember this, Claudia, but one of our clients one day sent us a voicemail just saying, "I love my beep job," but there was real joy there, and we were like, "Wow, we don't hear that so often," and it got us curious because I'm like, "Why do we not?" And then I was thinking about that, way back when I was a manager, and I didn't really enjoy, to be fair, a lot of the roles in my career. Found them quite challenging. But then towards the end of my career, before Mira and I set a company up, and in fact, Mira was helping me with this, it was more about, okay, well, no job's going to be perfect, right? But if you're going to rob yourself of joy for that many hours, considering you spend more time in your job, or at least we used to when we were going into the office than we do with our family and friends and etc. So do you really want to talk to yourself and, be in that negative energy all of the time? And the answer was no, because it, as you say, it just robs you of any joy you can find in the day. And I'd hazard a guess, if you really dig deep and ask yourself some honest questions, even the most challenging role, even if you're transitioning out or you don't necessarily want to stay in that job, I'm sure there'll be certain elements of the job throughout your day, throughout the week, throughout the month, where you can actually enjoy them. And that's what happened to me. I started to look at, what do I like about my role? And the things I liked was helping people grow, coaching and mentoring, and being creative and working as a community, as a team, collaborative, to collaborate and come up with new novel solutions. Obviously, the things I didn't like, and I can share this, was being in back-to-back meetings. Yeah, I think most people can agree on that. And some of the other things like course corrected or dealing with HR issues or reprimanding people, which, and all of the things you have to do as a leader. But once I started to really enjoy and bring joy into even the most challenging week in the month and the year, things got much easier. And that actually helps, when you want to transition as well, because if you are having a side hustle or a side gig, it's much easier to have bandwidth and energy to be able to pour that into your passion and not let your job rob you of all of your energy in your life.
Yeah. Good morning, Lori. Thank you for joining
Morning.
us on Facebook. And I see that there's a Yasir also here and LinkedIn. And you know what I'm hearing, Peter, is first of all, I guess we kind of skipped over defining joy, but what I say joy is it's the container for love and peace. And
Mm,
so I'm hearing you say you decided to approach your job from a place of loving serving your team, and when you were able to do that, you found the joy in it. And that's something that we miss, I think, because of the conditioning, right? Like,
mm,
especially our generation. Back in the day, it was like you you finish, secondary school, you get your college degree, you get a career, you stay there for 20, 30 years, and then you retire. And we're conditioned to, these are the things you have to do, right?
mm,
Like, we have no ownership over it, we have no choice in the matter, and we have to go and march to somebody else's drum. And there's no joy in that. So we don't seek out work or even our careers from a place of love or joy. Um, and it's not like that anymore, right? We found out the hard way these past 2 years that, oh my God, I'm at work like a third of my life, you
mm,
know?
mhm,
And I have to have, just like you have to have a happy home life, you need to have a happy work life, because what we found out when people had to work from home, like if their home life is miserable and their work life is miserable, like everything implodes.
mm,
So and that's when we realize we also have choices. And what is it that is making life miserable, and does it have to be miserable? The things that happen, do we have to make them mean anything, you
mm.
know?
Cordelia, sorry, just one thing before we proceed. The headset you're wearing's rubbing. It's making a really loud sound. And
Oh, okay. I thought I saw you making a motion. Okay, so it's really okay. Is it it's rubbing against my hijab
Yeah,
kind
yeah,
of thing? Okay,
yeah, yeah. Just lift it up maybe a little bit. That's
let me see. I can't actually close it. Is it still rubbing? Is it really horrible right now?
now it's fine, but I don't know when you. Now
Okay.
it's fine. Now sounds okay. Yeah.
I'm not moving.
Yeah.
I feel like no gestures,
Yeah,
no moving.
uh,
stay there. Don't move.
sorry, it's hard not to move and be, gesticulate and all of this stuff. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting that, you know, the more we speak to our clients, the more we have conversations about this. And I used to think this, if I'm really honest, how can I really find joy in work? It's a job, it's going to be tough. It's going to be a challenge and I'm going to be miserable. And it's like, really?
Mm,
And the question that we often ask ourselves, which we love, is that really true? And actually, it's not. Because like I said before, if you really look at all of the things that you like, in your life, and I'm sure there's things you can actually like within your role. And even if you're like, I'm done, this is a job that I'm not going to be in forever, wouldn't you rather find some fairly positive things and things that you like and not let the things that you don't like rob your joy and energy throughout the day? Because I don't know if you thought about this, but if you really focus on all that negative stuff, then no surprise, every day is going to be really tough.
mm. And that's one thing. And the other thing is, I think we are conditioned to, it's always a hard work. So I think we are also conditioned to stay in really tough conditions and not really thinking that job could be work could be more enjoyable, that you could have something better, that you can change your job and seek for better conditions and all of that. Because uh, I think that that's the other thing that comes with that label. Job equals hard equals value. It needs to be hard in order to have value. And so I remember having a conversation quite a few years ago with one of the managers in Peter's old work, and she was just talking about another manager uh, that wasn't really nice to one of the employees, that said, you're laughing, you shouldn't be laughing. This is the place of work. This is not, we don't play games here. You shouldn't laugh. And she felt that that was a bit harsh and not okay, because people spend here long time during the day and they should have fun. Why would work be something that it's hard, negative, serious? Because I do think there is also another thing that comes with this. Why don't we have more joy in work? And the other thing is that if you are enjoying something, it means you're not serious. Joy is opposite from being serious. Joy is opposite from doing stuff right. And so that's one of the labels that also jumps up at me when we talk about this.
Yeah, words, right? They create our world. So like when I'm hearing you say job has to be hard, or if you are enjoying it, you're doing it wrong. There's a lot of judgment there too.
Mm.
So work doesn't have to be hard because, if you think about it, we study things in school that we should enjoy, or we should be studying what we enjoy, and then continue on to seek a career in something we enjoy, right? So from that perspective, it doesn't even make logical sense that your job should be hard. And then the next thing is I'm fasting, so I can't drink water. um, the next thing is why are we judging ourselves that we're doing it wrong because we enjoy it? Wouldn't the world be a better place if we enjoyed what we did? Because, working in a career that's in alignment with how we want to serve the world is what can bring us joy and bring others joy, and just spread that frequency. I guess on this show we talk a lot about love, love, peace, and joy, and self-awareness. So instead of just having the self-awareness that you can love what you're doing, you can love your job, opens you up to even considering a different frequency. Does that make sense? I'm so focused on, like, right now I'm not loving being still. I'm so focused on being still, like I want you to be able to hear me, so I don't want the thing to scratch. So
You're doing well.
thank you.
uh, it is, and it's I think we all have different understandings of things, and we can relate to different things, but I think this is kind of universal for lots of societies, cultures, of how we see things, and then we just repeat the same thing, as you say. We kind of invite the same frequency in, and then this is what we give to others. I haven't seen a good manager that's been miserable and serious all the time. A good leader, it's not. It needs to be creativity, human connection, relationships. They are all psychological safety. You really do not hear people that are not safe that laughing. It's all connected, and I think this is what we really want to bring forward, is that people start thinking a little bit different about their lives and the work they do. Was it, Peter? Few weeks ago we were recording live podcast. We had audience, and then we were sharing our experience about energy and burnout, and then we invited people to ask questions as well, and they were also sharing their experiences of life and how it looked for them. And we can link maybe when it comes up to this episode, the other one, and so people can understand what am I talking about. And one of the people that came and joined the session was talking about, burning out, to then realize that that's not how it works. And then he started talking about joy. I never thought that life can be joyful, that life that it's available for me to enjoy what I do. It was always struggle. It was hustle, working hard, make it in the world. You don't have too many opportunities. You need to make the most of it. And it was so much pressure that it was sucking out his energy, as Peter said earlier. And he actually, yes, he got successful in his entrepreneurial journey, but then he lost everything that he was looking for in life. And I think this is what we are looking for. We are looking for that joy and happiness that we think will come after we achieve something, after we struggle. I think the religion, Christian religion, has a lot to do with that. You need to suffer in this world in order to be okay after.
I don't think it's just the Christian religion. It's so funny because, just like you, I was in a conference this past weekend, and one of the speakers talked about burnout. And she was saying basically the same thing, that we feel that in order to be successful, we have to work hard, we have to struggle. And if we don't struggle, then we're not being successful. And, in her life experience, she had a heart attack, and then she realized that, oh, yeah, so I don't have to kill myself to have joy. I can actually, slow down, take care of myself in the process, and I find more joy. And then yesterday on the Free to Be show, I had on Rabbi Yonason Golson and his co-host on the Rabbi and the Shrink, who's Catholic, and we were finding in all of our religions, right, that there's this aspiration for the afterlife, as if you can't find joy now, and that is the barrier from us, because we were talking about business ethics as a believer, and just when we hold on to the principle that the whole purpose is that human beings are created for bliss, right, or joy, if we just recognize that from a self-awareness place, then we can bring that into our business, and professional lives. And then from a self-care perspective, we can honor our bodies, and honor our minds. And Lori's saying, I spent decades working at jobs that drained me, work I didn't enjoy. I am now following my passion. I may have less money, but I have joy. See, that's the thing, because thank you for sharing that, Lori, right? Because that's what we're taught. Money is what brings us happiness. Money is what brings us joy, but that's not even true. Health and positive and healthy relationships. And that's like in our personal lives and our professional lives. That's what really gives us joy.
I'm looking at Peter.
Is my scratchiness not giving you joy, Peter?
You're good. You're good. Okay. You're doing well.
Thank you.
No, I was looking if he had something to add to it.
Are you asking me?
Yeah, you may speak, Peter.
Can't get a word in edgeways. No, I'm joking. No, I was just reflecting. I was enjoying the conversation, and I was just reflecting on what Laurie said. And yeah, I can relate to that, because what you said before, Cordelia, that's true. A lot of people study, work hard, and then they get their so-called dream job, and then it's totally toxic. And yeah, the reality is sometimes the industry or the job could be, or the community that they're in. But quite often we actually make things so much more difficult. And for those of you like myself that didn't really necessarily pick the jobs, because I didn't follow that straight line of, going to the best university and then suddenly graduating and then, work experience and into a role that I loved. It was the opposite for me. Most of the gigs that I took to pay the rent or the mortgage were more like, oh, well, if I don't do this, I'm actually going to be on the street. And again, until I realized that actually I might not be in my dream job, but I do have a choice how to show up when I'm in that job. And
Mm.
obviously, once I got into leadership roles as a manager, it was vital, because even if I wasn't having a good day, it would be really selfish. And it's the opposite of being of service and being a good boss. If I was to bring all of that stress and that negativity and then, superimpose that onto my team. And that's what sadly a lot of leaders do. And sometimes they're not aware of it because they're in such a high stress, high fear. I don't want to be here. I want to run away and hide in the toilet. But what they don't realize is even if they don't even open their mouth, the team feeds off that energy and they're wondering why is my boss sketchy? What's going on?
Mm.
And then when they have a conversation with that person, only then can you really understand. And again, if for any managers listening, the more that you're willing to lean in and share how you're feeling with your team. So, for example, if I wasn't really having a great day, if it made sense, not in a negative way, but just to share that I wasn't 100%, but I'm here, I've got your back, I'm listening to you. It's just that maybe today isn't the day when I'm going to come up with some new novel product or change the world, but I'm here, I'm doing some admin, I'm going to go to the meetings. And if you need my help, let me know. Versus what I seen quite often in my career, sadly, was managers and leaders hiding away because they just couldn't cope with the day. They came into the building already in a really low energy state and they were feeling, not very confident, miserable. Why am I here? And no surprise, they don't really want to show up and then help and the problem is when you show up that way, you can't really be productive. You're not really having the best impact you could have. And that's the thing, even in the most rubbish job, or that you might think that coming in and changing your energy and reflecting on, okay, not everything's perfect, but I'm going to show up and I'm going to be the best human I can for my colleagues. Even if I can't have the best experience, what if I can, you pointed to it before, Cordelia, cultivate some relationships. I'm going to get to know some of my colleagues and my peers and my boss on a more granular level. Let's ask about the family. The simplest thing in the world is showing an interest and giving some that gift of how are you doing today? How was your weekend? And it seems so simple, right? But it eludes quite often. And I know I did, when I was running too fast, I forgot to go and say hello. And then I was running straight into a meeting because I was up in my head. And when I did that, things were obviously more challenging. And on the days when I come in a bit earlier, I checked in with people. I was like, hey, what's going on? What's happening right now? I'm just about to go to a meeting. This is what's happening today. I'll be gone for a few hours. Things were completely different. And I know it sounds super simple, but it's amazing how these kind of things, just by thinking them out loud and, just reflecting on them before you start your day, can be a total lifesaver. And your day can be much more doable, much more fun, much more joyous, I dare say,
So it comes down to joy and presence, it looks like,
Yeah.
because I'm hearing you really talking about presence. And I know, like, was it last month or earlier this month on the Mind Takeaway, you guys were looking deeply at energy. And, when we change, I have to say, when we, make a practice of being aware of our energy, and that can be, through meditation, that can be through watching what you eat, um, just a lot of keeping us out of our head, our basic self-care issues. And you were saying this also, Peter, like, it's like just keeping it simple. We think that everything has to be so complicated, but the more simple things are, the easier it is. Like the ease in life, and and relationship building comes with that. And tomorrow I'm going to be talking about vulnerability, viability, and vitality in another forum. And that makes me think about the next thing you were saying about checking in with your staff and talking about the family. People worry about that because, like, how vulnerable can you be at work? There's, what's the line? The people at work, they're really not your friends, but just giving enough information so they can see you as a human, I think is this is another thing we're not taught. It's like, we talk a lot about being vulnerable and as a leader, right? Because Brene Brown had that TED talk how many years ago, and her books, that's kind of the through thread. But I don't really think that people understand what vulnerability is. So, like, Mira, speak to that. I see, like,
There was. I think I had my own personal insight into vulnerability some time ago, and for me, that's being true. That's being true. It is being true to yourself and being true to other people. It's not pretending, not hiding things, not trying to be somebody that you're not in that moment. But it's also understanding that just because you feel vulnerable doesn't mean that you're not okay. Doesn't mean you can't do the job. Doesn't mean much. It just means that you have some insecure, vulnerable thinking going on. So it's really understanding who you are, how you create that stuff. And as you said, we don't have to share everything. And there are things that, it won't be an opportunity, it won't be good to share at that moment. We need to have clarity about what to share, when, and how. Um, I think, but in that moment, to be truthful to yourself. I'm not, I'm not in the greatest position to make a big decision right now. Therefore, I won't be doing it. It's accepting your vulnerability and accepting things that you don't feel comfortable, confident about, rather than trying to hide it. And I think to me, this is the big shift, and this is where it makes a difference, because when we try to hide it, we are messing stuff up. We are creating problems. We are ruining connections, relationships with people. We are sharing stress. We are sharing pressure. We are, when a manager isn't feeling okay and it's feeling vulnerable and doesn't want anybody to see that or feel that, they're going to put a wall around themselves. They will be barking orders. They will be micromanaging. They will be, God knows what else will be going on, making wrong decisions, shouting at people, or God knows what else it can be. I'm just trying to think pretty quickly what else can show up. But people can just imagine. But if you feel vulnerable, even though you're not sharing it, but you're okay with that feeling, this is what makes the difference. You're not trying to change it. You are not solving a problem that doesn't exist. You're not destroying anything around you. You're not impacting anything around you, because you are aware and you're staying with that feeling. You're not sharing it with others. Does that make sense?
It does. Like, I call that, what you were describing, the result of not being congruent and in integrity with yourself. I call it emotional splatter, right? So, like,
It sounds about right, yeah.
you got like this whole tornado going on inside, and people are just getting the bits that fly out, you know? And what I hear your definition of vulnerability is just being, I had to write it down, is being congruent, like, um, and being, and true to yourself. It's like, okay, Cordelia, today I'm just not mentally capable of making decisions, and then communicating that to people and saying, look, Um, I know we have this very important thing that requires my okay on, and today I'm not okay to do that. So give me 24 to 48 hours, and I will get back to you. Someone else can read that, Pita.
Okay, Laurie said, I love when Peter said that when he is not 100%, he is honest with his employees. I think we sometimes forget that our bosses, managers are humans too and have difficult days just like the rest of us. Absolutely. And I think the more people understand it, the more you show it, the more people will understand it. I think that's the thing. If you're hiding it, people will, not understand it. And then
And then
and
they
then
can't trust you.
they can't trust you, yeah, and because they don't know what you're going to do when, and the more, yeah, the more we are honest, the more people are there to uh, keep our back when we need to. As you said, I can't do this today, I don't think I'm in the right state, can somebody take over, you know but when we are also not, I think one of the things as well, when we are feeling insecure, that we can't delegate properly. That's one of the big things with it. No.
Well, that's a sign of a good boss, right? It's like, look, I'm not trying to make my job easier, but I trust you. I want you to grow. Let's give you something to grow into versus I'm just going to give you all the shit work, pardon my French, to keep you busy, but you're never going to get promoted, which quite often sadly happens in companies. That's a reality.
Mm.
But, we always have a choice and we can say no. And that's something that we've been reminded of quite often with our clients, that they forget that they can say no to things. And this is another thing. If you want more joy in work, quite often we work with clients. One of the first things we do is actually look and explore boundaries and get them curious about, how, what's the latest you want to work? How many hours is too many hours? Do you have a family or not? If you've got kids, obviously you want to see your family and your partner, etc. And even if you haven't got kids, you want some kind of life outside of work. I'm pretty sure, you might want to exercise or go in the fresh air or go in nature or whatever it is. So the best thing, for anyone listening, watching, get curious about what are your boundaries. So what are the things that you're okay and a bit flexible about? And also, what are the non-negotiables? What are the things that it's a line? And if that's crossed, it's probably more likely to rob the joy and happiness out of your day, out of your week, out of your year.
Mm.
And once you start to set those down, write them on paper, for example, you can obviously change your mind as it's totally fine. You get new information and your boundaries change. But quite often when we speak to people, they're shocked. They're like, yeah, I've never thought about that. I don't have any boundaries in work. I actually say yes to everything. And I wonder why I'm burned out and an empty human being, And when it gets to the weekend, I just want to sleep and close the curtains. And I don't have time to go and have fun because I give my all. I give every fiber of my being to my job. And I'm not saying you shouldn't be a good employee, but you can do both. It is totally realistic to be able to do a great job, be a great employee, a great boss, a great leader, but also be a great family person and be great friends. And even if, you do a lot of stuff alone, you want that time for you, the downtime, the reflection, do your hobbies, the things that you're passionate about outside of that working week. And if you give it too much to your job, it's not going to happen.
And it doesn't make you a good employee. That actually, I think
No,
it's
no.
one of the things that we've discovered with burnout as well, and exhaustion, and actually, and even if it's not that, not having downtime for your mind to reflect, to think about, do something else, to recharge, to replenish the energy. Uh, Again, you can do 12 hours, and your efficiency, the output of you're done, it's 2 minutes, or you
Yes.
can work 3 hours and the output to be 3 hours, but it's only when you are functioning in your optimal energy.
And the reality is, when you're out of integrity, your body's going to be fatigued. Your mind's going to be
Mm,
fatigued, and you won't be able to perform at all. You know, you could actually work 5 days and do one day's worth of work, and show up 12 hours every day. And the
mm,
other thing I do want to, bring this up, just like kind of a little bit highlighted, there is a misconception, for single people. Oh, you don't have a family. You can be here
mm,
all day and all night. That's not true. Because single people sometimes, they have family responsibility still. They're a sibling, they're a child, they're somebody's child, right? And then they're just a human that needs, to be in the woods, maybe, if that's their thing. And then the family people on the other end of the spectrum, don't dismiss people who have families. You know, a woman, because she has children, or even a man, because just because a man, is married and has a wife, don't assume that he doesn't want to be with his family. I think there are two types of dismissiveness that comes there, right? They assume that the man's detached. Yeah, he has a million kids, but his wife's got that, right? And then there's, oh, she's a mom. Yeah, she's married, but she's got kids, so we can't count on her. And in all three cases are wrong.
mm,
Everybody is human. Everybody's somebody's child, somebody's, sibling, and they require time for self-care. They require time for self-nurturing, and they require time to fill themselves up by building those relationships outside of their job, so that they can show up to work as a whole person, and not emotionally splatter all over the team, or if you're the team leader, um, all over their subordinates. So,
mm,
it's this is another way where organizations rob their employees of joy, right? So we in the first part of this conversation, we're looking at it on the individual level, but on the organizational level, because of that overwhelming culture of, yeah,
mm, mm.
whatever. Yeah.
Makes absolute sense. Uh, the other thing that I don't think we mentioned, and I think it's interesting to mention, is um, you know people that do what they love doing. People that start a job or a work, um, or people that stop doing their previous job and then start their own company, or start doing a passion job or a passion project. It can easily turn into hard struggle, hassle, hassle culture, we even call it. um, and we can easily lose joy out of it, and it's even when we work in jobs that are helping jobs, like peacemakers, people in, say, UN, or people that are, or for example, us, coaches, therapists, nurses. It is a helping vocation, and often people think that they have to help everyone and stop looking out for themselves, and stop taking care of themselves, and that causes fatigue, that you can start not liking and stressing about the job that you used to like. So I think that's that danger as well. So it doesn't mean that if you have started doing a job, or that you are doing a job that you always wanted, that you necessarily need to do it regardless how you feel. You really need to look after yourself, because this is the only way how can you help people better. Does that make sense? Thank you. Peter is looking at me strangely. But yeah, that's one of the things that I have been struggling with in my life, because I always had the job that I wanted. I always had the work that I loved, and I worked as a physiotherapist for many years, and I really enjoyed it. I love working with patients, and then after I started doing therapy and coaching, I loved that. But I had this idea, and this is something that we touched a little bit on the beginning, is that I should not complain. I should not feel tired or exhausted or I should not ask for lower working hours and that. And then I actually squeezed out any joy out of the work that I loved, because I thought that working hard is a value.
Yeah, I like what Laurie shared there about the childcare centre. Yeah, it's wonderful if companies can offer options, to have classes. And the challenge is, though, sometimes they can offer them and try and force people to do stuff they don't want. But if they offer things freely and people are able to do other things other than just the working grind, because quite often we forget that if you want good output from employees, if you want them to be happy and be at their best and be impactful in the roles, quite often it's counterintuitive for leaders. I know they get uncomfortable with this, but the reality is every second of the day that they're on shift on the clock doesn't mean that you should be doing everything you can and being busy. We all need downtime, and not just the breaks. What we're pointing to, as Laurie said there, I actually used to take my team outside, and actually one time in one company, I won't name it, but they were like, "Why did you take your team away?" "Oh, they should be busy doing this." I'm like, "Actually, stop you there. What are my results like?" And again, I wasn't trying to be cocky, but my results spoke for themselves, not because I was amazing individually. The team were well rested and they got some downtime. And actually, the job was really challenging. And sometimes it required a lot of creative thinking because there was a lot of problems and required, solutions and thinking fast on the spot. So if they were forced to just log in and 24/7 being in work, just work, dealing with the clients or whatever it is, no surprise, they're going to lead to burnout. So getting them outside, I couldn't take them to the woods or take them hiking. Obviously, that would have been taking liberties. I'm sure the bosses wouldn't have been happy. But, what are the things around your workplace, if you are in the workplace, that is? And sometimes I'll be like, well, we've got a really nice lake by the building. Let's get outside. Oh, can we do that? I'm like, well, yes, I'm the boss.
I used to get
Yeah.
lots of interesting pictures of turtles that were living in that lake.
Yeah. The backstory is someone let out some terrapins and then they grew to some big size, and now there's a whole community and they have a few rocks. So it's kind of cool,
Nice.
But that aside, I mean, it's just things like that. What can I do to bring joy for my colleagues? And if you can do that as an employee, I'd hazard a guess that you'll get more joy back. Because I don't know about you two, but when I give someone that gift of just, checking in and actually caring about, what you've been up to, just being curious, people then suddenly lit up. Oh, okay, you're interested in it. Let's have a conversation. And then suddenly the day gets a bit easier. And that doesn't mean doing that and avoiding, it's not work avoidance just for anyone listening and watching. It's far from that, because the teams that I manage were always willing to put the work in. But they also, when we explored it, because I used to talk about this stuff in our meetings, when we had staff meetings, was, what are your boundaries? I'd like to know. So when we have our next one-to-one and we talk about the KPIs and all the hard stuff, that aside, let's put some time aside in that 1 hour meeting where I can get to know you. And I want to know, what are your needs and wants? I know you have a family at least. So, what about shifts and that? Is it okay that the shift patterns you're on and all of this stuff? And once I got to know that about my team, it made it easier for me to make decisions when it comes to things like that for the teams, or there was options of shifts, or if there was an opportunity for me as a manager to make one of my colleagues' lives a bit easier because there's some opportunity. And, that's the kind of thing that used to really save me, because when things got really tough, because they do in work, sometimes you get busy and there's deadlines to meet and all of that, which is normal. my team were willing to step up and they had the energy and the trust was there and they're willing to do the work, versus sadly some of the teams that were next to me where the leader didn't have the back and they weren't necessarily communicating or didn't get to know them or cultivate relationships, and then they got really limited information from the team. So when things went wrong, they didn't really know what to do. So,
Right.
the team was robbed of joy from simple things. And that's the sad thing. Just by putting the groundwork and get to know each individual in your team, even if you're not a boss, if you want to be a great employee, a great team member, get to know each person, get to know the hobbies and what lights them up. So when things get tough, you can really bring joy into someone's day. It's much easier. And then I'm pretty sure if you have a kind of rubbish day, they'll step up and be there and have your back.
I love that. Yeah. It's like um, creating consistent opportunities for joy and connection. You build that trust, and communication becomes easier. No matter if it's a difficult or stressful time, you know how to bring each other back to that inner peace, right, and center, so that whatever needs to get done under pressure can, and you'll be able to. You'll have a very communicative team. Another thing I'm hearing is many years ago, I interviewed Dr. Sandra Dalton, and she wrote a book about the 7 types of rest. And people don't get that, like we just think you rest when you sleep, but there's creative rest, right? There's, emotional rest, psychological rest, physical rest, and spiritual rest, and giving opportunities. The spiritual rest can be like meditation, and yoga. The creative rest can be walking around a lake, because getting reconnected to nature, like just even watching green or watching animals moving around, that can spark different parts of the brain. And so these are all ways that work can create, the frequency of joy, and just in part of the job. So this has really been a delightful conversation. I know we always make a skeleton outline and we never know what we're going to talk about really, but this was really great.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. There's some stuff that came up that I actually didn't think as, how much these little moments of joy in stuff that we do and how we show up around people as, if we are leaders, how much that affects everybody's day and how much more energy they get from it. Because somebody's grumpy, your energy goes down. Somebody's a good mood, your energy goes up. It transfers. It's and we don't really talk about it so often. We often see this negative part of, somebody's silly and they shouldn't be doing this at work. They shouldn't feel good because then they're not serious, or there is so much value attached to hard, to suffering, and yeah, I think those are some of the labels that we need to start at looking differently for ourselves first and foremost, and then slowly that will show up differently around us.
Yeah, and it's a good reminder actually that you can choose who you hang around with. I know there's not so much choice because you can't choose who's in your team and your boss and all of that. You've got to be realistic, but again, you can choose who you have your lunch with. You can choose not to be with people and recharge yourself by going for a walk, like we said, if you've got a lake or some trees outside, or just getting out the building. And if you're at home, what we noticed during COVID is that people, even us sometimes, got so busy that we forgot to take breaks. So what we're saying is, if you want more joy in your day, regardless of how challenging the day is, you still need to take breaks. And Cordelia, you pointed to this before, if you want to get creative and recharge your batteries, then sitting in the same room trying to resolve the same problem with the same information and going round and round. It's torturous. We've all done it, right? We've all innocently done it until we catch ourselves. Just by going outside and switching it up, even going in a different room, if it's too cold outside, can usually spark something, or making a cup of tea, doing the complete opposite to try to resolve the problem usually leads to better results, right? But I guess that's a different conversation.
Or is it?
Or
Yeah.
is it?
But I definitely post the link to your podcast where you were doing it live. That's so cool. I can't wait till we can do our podcast like in a room full of people. So
Yeah.
Hopefully soon. Yeah.
Looking forward
If
to it.
somebody wants us to come and record the podcast in their premises and do a workshop together, we can do that. No.
Yeah.
In America or in the UK.
yeah.
In the
That would be
UK?
fun. Yeah, in Germany. But
Or
yeah,
the
UK
UK.
is not
Yeah.
too far away.
Yeah, you guys just get on the train. So
Yeah, that was fun. That was fun, and I hope to do more of it. And I really enjoy these conversations because
Likewise.
it really sparks some things in me that I also didn't think about before. Yeah. So I hope that same thing happens for people listening as well.
Yeah, just tell us what you think. I'm curious to know how much joy you think, or maybe you do have lots of joy, or if you don't, let us know, because I'm really curious to see. It's just that when we meet people, yeah, it seems to be 50-50 right now, at least from our limited view of the people we connect with. But it has the guess that why can't we have 90% or 100% of people with joy in work? And again, it won't be every second of the day. We are being realistic. We know that there will be challenges. There'll be days when you'll be like, ugh, I just want to log out or go home, right? But what we're pointing to is, where can you find minutes, an hour here, just all of the things we talked about. That's the kind of things that you can add more joy during the actual working day. And there's always a moment to find. Even in the worst day possible, I used to find a moment where I'd be like, actually, it's okay. I'm having a rubbish day, but I'm okay. And I'm still happy in myself, even though it looks like everyone's running around like headless chickens. It's like, okay. And it's much easier to be able to build your resilience around that and survive it, versus, oh my God, well, everyone's running around and freaking out, so let's freak out as well. Because sometimes
right, like monkey see, monkey do, right?
Yeah. Have you ever heard this? Sorry, last thing to say is, have you ever heard this? It's, I think the saying is what? It takes the same person in the room to change everyone's mood. So, for example, if it's all frenetic and then suddenly someone just walks in really chilled and happy and smiley, and then people are snapped back to reality and they're like, why is that person happy? Okay, I've forgotten that I'm all stressed and I've been shouting at the other person next to me. Why are you so happy? Oh, would you like to know? I've just been outside and I saw a turtle.
That's what it's about. The terrapin.
It takes genuinely a happy person, I mean, in that moment for it, because if you have people that are trying to fake happiness, and pretend that they're okay when they're not, and that just probably yields different results.
Yeah, that's what. Just to be clear to everyone, we're not saying that, because that positive.
But toxic positivity,
yeah.
is that how is it called?
Yeah, toxic positivity, where people are going, chin up, smile, and then, I'm sorry, but you just want to. I don't want to say punch them in the face, because that would be violent. But
you can wish it, but you don't have to.
Yeah, of course. What we're saying.
Be true to yourself, Peter.
No, but what I'm, to be clear, what I'm saying is that when you see that, it's repellent and it's hard to love that person, because if you're having a bad day, the best thing you can do, the gift you give to someone, is say, hey, how are you doing? Not to say be happy or sad or change whatever state you're in. It's just be curious about what's going on and listen to them.
Yeah. Give them,
be present with them.
Yeah.
So and also, like, if I guess to close, if you have that ongoing frequency of joy, even if you can't find something to be happy about in that moment, you can know what your mind will automatically look for the benefit. What's the lesson here? What's the opportunity? And what did we learn from things not going right? So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Let's learn to be human again.
Yes, I love that. So, yeah. Well, thank you for this time. Don't forget to post the link to your live podcast. So, you know, how great is it that we're both hosts of two podcasts, so we can like bring in stuff from our other life.
And different conversations, they're all connected in some way, and we can't really talk about absolutely everything in what we usually aim for 45 minutes or so. Thank you, Laurie. Thank you for
Thank you.
listening and being with us and sharing. That yeah, it's we'll do that. We'll cross share. Thank you very much, Cordelia. Thank you, Peter.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for listening, and speak soon.
Bye.
Bye for now.